Tell me what the hell are you scared of when in the end the only thing
Where's the
that's
love?
left
Right here on
is
this
the
podcast.
pain.
Welcome to Love
Sometimes
Drops,
I don't
where your
understand
hosts
the things
and
I
One Love
do.
ambassadors,
Never
Charles
refuse
and
to
Diane,
always
will
together
share
long
love,
to an empty
hope,
when
and
it takes the
inspirational
sweetest love's
topics
life.
taken
All
from
of the
their
things I
journey
don't
and
show.
world
All of
events.
the
We
challenges
will
I
also
fight
include
for.
on location recordings and special pop up guests from cool places all around the world. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Whether big or small, love never fails. Oh, love it conquers all. Love never fails.
Welcome to the Love Drop Podcast. We're streaming live from London, UK. We're excited today to have our guest, Toby Myles. Toby is the host of Her Origin Story, a podcast that celebrates the pivotal moments that inspire women to build purpose-driven businesses. She's a storytelling coach and strategic copywriter who helps entrepreneurs turn real life moments into powerful brand stories. Toby is also the creator of the Core 8 StoryHub, a framework that helps business owners clarify their message, build authentic connections, and share stories that convert. Toby is so much more, and you will get that as you listen to her tell her origin story. I'm so excited to have Toby with us today. As a creative, as a writer, I am just deeply inspired by the vibe that is Toby Myles. Toby, the mic is yours.
Oh my gosh, Diane, I'm excited to be here. I'm glad we were finally able to get this on the calendar, right? Like we're on opposite sides of the world right now and marrying up timeframes. I'm in East Coast. I'm in Pennsylvania, so East Coast here, and you're in the UK, and we're making the world a smaller place, right? Because
Yeah.
we still get to show up here together, which I love.
Oh my goodness, I do too, Toby. I do too. And I'm so glad to have you. I'm excited.
Same here. Yeah. You got to be a guest on my podcast, which I loved. I loved hearing your story. Even though you and I knew each other from another community, I never really got to hear like the full breadth of your story and all of the experience you had and then how you pivoted to what you're doing now. And that's really what I love about these conversations is that as women entrepreneurs, we get to like shine a spotlight on each other and lift each other up and inspire each other through our stories.
Yes, that is so true. And as you mentioned, we did meet in another community and we really didn't get to connect. I think that was our pre-glimpse and it brought us together. And I believe it was probably about a year before we just kind of watched each other on LinkedIn, commented on one another's post and message and everything. And then finally, once you were ready to launch your podcast, we came together with our stories and merged our stories together. And one of the things about you, Toby, is you're an amazing storyteller. I mean, phenomenal. To be a great storyteller, you have to captivate your audience enough to bring them into the story, keep them just captured enough to just follow the story, and then you have to bring it home, and you do all of that so well. So, I mean, it's just amazing for you to have this podcast, Her Origin Story, right? Where you are able to just not only shine your gift, but spotlight other women. So, tell us a little bit about what started the podcast. Like, what inspired you to drop that podcast?
Yeah, I've been wanting to have a podcast for about 3 years. I'd seen other women do it and it was very inspired by the way they just handled themselves But I kept putting it off. I kept talking myself out of it. Oh my gosh, there's already so many podcasts out there. Who needs another podcast? Who's going to listen to me? And in my mind, it wasn't always her origin story. When I turned 60, it was going to be a podcast where I interviewed 60 women over 60, right? That was what it was going to be. And then that evolved into a story prompt podcast where I thought I would show up, tell a story, and prompt my listeners then to go share a similar story. And something just didn't feel right. Something that just didn't click. And it wasn't very clear. I didn't have the clarity I needed. And then earlier this year, I was on a call with my coach at the time. And I was feeling just a little restless and a little stuck and what's next for me. And I'm, really leaning into the whole storytelling, story coaching thing. And she said to me on a call, what is it you really love to do the most? And I said, jokingly, I'm very nosy. I'm nosy about other people. Some people call it curious. I joke and I say that I'm nosy. Like, I want to know your story. I want to know how you got to this point. What was your journey like? I have just a natural curiosity around that. And I want to talk to women and find out how they got to where they're going. And my coach said, do that. Like, that is what you're meant to do. And she said, just start having conversations, recording people, invite them to Zoom, and just start having these conversations without, being tied to the outcome. And even though I didn't need permission, that was like permission. That was like, yeah, I should do this. There's no reason why I shouldn't. And that really started the whole ball rolling. That was back in February of this year. And by the beginning of May, my podcast was fully launched. Once I just said, yes, I'm doing the thing, I moved very quickly because I just had this appetite for more and more and more. And one of the things that I love about having the podcast, and Diane, you probably know this because you've had your podcast already for so many years, is that I feel like I can give somebody a gift by inviting them to come on my podcast and talk about that story, right? Like, we meet people all the time in networking and online, and we're not always going to hire each other or work together or collaborate. But one thing I can always do is invite someone to come on my podcast and share their story.
Yes, I love that so much, Toby. I love it so much about you. And so what you just said resonated so deeply with me. And so when you said inviting others to your podcast to share their story, that is my analogy with shining together. So we get to shine a spotlight. We get to offer a platform where we can share your story, just across our platform and with our people, with our listeners. And that is such a great gift. Another thing is how you got to her origin story. It's so funny. I'm going to tell you this, and then we're going to keep going. So Love Drops was almost called the Bathtub Chronicles. Because as I was like working through it, I said, when you take your bath, you say, Calgon, take your way. So we'll just have like the bath. And so Charles is just like doing what you're doing now, laughing. And he was just like, but I don't know about guys. And so it just took some massaging. And we did get to, Love Drops. I had already been doing Love Drops when I came up with the Bathtub Chronicles. And it was like, why reinvent the wheel? Somebody who was listening to the videos that we're doing Love Drop, they were like, oh, I love your Love Drops. They're so inspired. I'm like, bam, that's the name. So when you know, right? So, just in that launch, okay, so you get there, you get to that place where you're like, okay, I'm going to drop my podcast and this is how we're going to do it. So just in that launch, what were some of the things you encountered, to get it all out there?
Oh, yeah. Well, first of all, I have to say one of the other reasons why I put it off, not just feeling like who's going to listen, but it was the tech piece of it. I'm not a tech girl. I'm a writer. I'm a creative. I rely on tech. I'm like a toddler. When things don't work with my tech, I have a little temper tantrum. I get very frustrated very easily. And so I felt like, how am I going to handle the tech piece of it? Because I'm sorry, but I know plenty of people do their own editing. That's not me. I don't want to do it. I just want it to be done. And so a big piece of launching was knowing that I had somebody on my team who was willing to do the editing piece of it. And it is not highly polished. It's like real raw conversations. So I'm not worried about every little or stumble or anything like that. But it has to be, it has to be tight. It has to be polished, cleaned up. And so that was a huge thing. So once I had somebody on my team who could do the tech piece of it, I was like, I'm good. There were a few things I had to do to make sure that everything was linked up. So then when it goes out into the world, but then I had been holding on to this idea for so long that I just went like all out inviting people. And I kept thinking of more and more people like, oh, this person would be great. This person would be great. And I brain dumped a whole list. I had like 50 people on the list right out of the gate. And so
Whoa.
I started inviting people and saying, hey, I'm doing this thing I've been thinking about for a while. I think you would be great. And I was amazed at the response, how many people were excited. They didn't care that I was a new podcaster. They were like, I would love to come on, and talk about my story. And it just went so much more smoothly than I thought it would. Some of the lessons learned is that no, you cannot do interviews every day of the week and maintain, certain level of sanity and energy.
Right?
So I had
Right.
to shut that down pretty quickly. And now I do record all of my interviews on Tuesdays. I can get three is my max. And so I'm learning along the way, some of the things that are better that make it a better show, right? But I'm still in infancy stages. I'm still learning about it. But honestly, like I just feel like I wish I had done it sooner. I'm having
Wow.
so much fun with it. There's so many amazing women. Like I feel like I'm never going to run out of women to talk to because there's so many amazing women. And every time I have a guest, I say, "Hey, refer more people to me. Tell me who else I should have on the
Exactly.
show." And you know yourself, people are always like, "Oh yeah, I know plenty of people." And they do, and they respond and they make introductions. So it's been amazing in that way.
Absolutely. And I love how you gave yourself grace. I love how you took out the gate running. And generally, that is what happens when we are holding something for a while. Once we're ready to go, we go because we've had the
Hmm.
time to really think it through pretty well. I'll tell you one thing, it's a very smart thing you did not editing because that was a lesson that I had to learn. I edited the show for almost the first 3 years. And yeah,
Wow.
that's a smart move because I'm a creative too. I'm not a tech person. So I'm a creative too. And I was taking out and I was, just kind of being so picky with it. And it was taking up so much time. And I
Hmm.
was like, I didn't have a quota, like saying I'm just gonna do 3 guests a week. I was just dropping them down and
Hmm.
burnout. And I'll tell you this, Toby, everyone that I have referred to your show, they simply love you. And I'm going to tell you this, my people, they do not blow smoke, especially my mom. And my mom was like, "Oh, good job, Toby." She just really enjoyed the show because you have that thing. You have that thing that connects. So you don't have to be techie,
Right.
how the mechanics work. When you got that thing, right? Then it resonates and you got that thing. And I'm so glad that I get to just be a witness and a part of it because when we were in the group together, you didn't talk much. Like I didn't know you
Mm-mm.
were a storyteller because you were very observant, is what I now know. Like you were
Right.
observing, right? I thought you were shy
Hmm.
until I
Hmm.
started reading. I'm like, she's not shy. You were just, you were observing. And so, what has been your favorite aspect of doing the podcast? Like of her origin story, what has been your favorite part thus far?
I feel like my favorite part is that and maybe there are a few episodes that are the exception, but women come on, and I think at first they're a little bit maybe guarded. about sharing things, about being transparent. They think, they're still buying into that mindset that to show up online, you have to be polished and you only show the successes. But there's something happens when we sit down together, like just two best friends at a coffee shop and just start talking. And even though I always show up with a list of questions, rarely do I ever get to the questions because we're just having a conversation, right? Just like you and I are right now. I will start by saying, take me back to the moment that sparked it all. But after that, we feed off each other. And what usually happens is the women start to feel super comfortable and they share things that I think they thought maybe were like off limits before, or maybe they thought they shouldn't. If you say something and you want me to edit it, you just feel like, no, I shouldn't have said that. That's fine. Like we will do that. But that's been one of my favorite things so far is that, when we are done recording, time after time, women say, wow, I didn't think I would be able to talk about that thing, that difficult moment. But they can. And that's what I love is that they feel safe with me and they know that I'm coming to this just from a place of like curiosity, but just also wanting to like give them that platform to just be themselves, right? The
Right.
real, the raw, the unfiltered moments. Like it's okay. You can show up online and in the world in that way. And people will love you and connect with you because of that.
Yes, that's beautiful. And it is also a credit to you because you have a way of pulling things out. You have a way of leading, like you have a way of guiding the story into a place and space of comfortability, a place where it just feels safe. Like it's just me and you here. And
Hmm.
sure, what else would you like to know, Toby? I'll tell you anything.
Yeah.
No. I can say this.
Yes.
Your guest is just such an elevation with each show, with each guest, just listening to these women share their stories and just be so transparent. It's amazing and it's what's needed because it gives other women the courage, right, to do the same
Hmm.
to come and show up unapologetically to the stage, right? So
Yes.
I was sitting here, I was thinking, I'm like, Toby, it's just like there is an origin to your story. There is that spark that made you curious or nosy, as you said. So and then talking with you when I was on your podcast, you mentioned how you were shy. What was that spark? I mean, where do you think that curiosity in you sparked from?
When I look back on what was considered shy, and I look back on some of the things I experienced as a child in social situations, by today's standards, it would have been labeled social anxiety. I would get sick to my stomach going to like a Girl Scout function. I would call my mom in the middle of the night and ask her to come pick me up from a slumber party. Yeah. And so I think that just naturally made me an observer of the world. And you mentioned that in the networking group that I was observing. I'm very much an observer of the world. That's something that I inherited from my father, who was not shy at all, but he tended to he wasn't someone that just talked just to talk, right? He just kind of observed. He was quiet until he had something to say. And I think I very much got that from him. I'm not just someone just to talk, just to talk. I don't need to be the center of attention. But that shyness piece that has, in some way, has stayed with me most of my life. I don't consider myself shy now, but if I was to go to a party where I didn't know anyone, I would not be the person going around and introducing myself. I would find like a corner and I would probably sit down, and if somebody was sitting next to me and we started talking, I would start asking them questions because I'd rather talk about someone else than myself, right? Not that I don't think that I have an interesting story, but I'm so curious. And that is a way that I kind of make myself feel comfortable in an uncomfortable situation is by asking someone else questions. And it kind of eases that tension. It goes beyond small talk, which I'm not good at small talk. at all. So yeah, that is very much part of my origin story.
That's good. That's good. And as I was listening to you, a lot made sense because, okay, in asking the questions, but then the flip side of that also is being able to tell a story. So expressing yourself in storytelling, just like as we were doing sound check and you gave me this great story, about smoothies and yogurt. And I mean, it was just fascinating, right? And it's like to tell a story seems to come natural with you. So, like me, I can just talk. Like I'm like, hey girl, hey, I'm the one that's going on. Hi, I'm Diane, right? And
Yeah.
then, right. So then
Hmm.
it's
Hmm.
like with you, you may not do that, but then when you come to the mic or when you have the spotlight on you, you're gonna tell us a story. So it's just like
Hmm.
we get to know who you are through story. And it makes so much sense because there's this saying that says your gift will make room for you. And so you are so eloquent and just so good in telling stories. So that's that thing, when we're talking earlier, and I said, you don't have to have tech, you don't have to have
Hmm.
podcast experience. It's just that thing. Some people would call it a niche, some people would call it a gift, whatever, but it's that thing. You got that swag, right? Where it's just like you can get into story and just capture. Like you can hold
Hmm.
the room. You might not do like I do. You maybe shine different than the way I shine, but you shine bright and you capture the room. So, I mean,
Hmm.
what do you think about that? That's just my assessment.
Yes. I think that that's something that I've taken for granted. I always say that I come from a long line of storytellers. My father, he used to tell these very lengthy jokes that really were stories. Same thing with my grandfather, his father. When we were kids, he would make up this totally like involved story with all these twists and turns, but he told it as if it were true. And we would sit there captivated thinking that it was true until my grandmother would just call him out and say, "Oh, Jack, stop." And then we realized like, oh, okay, he just made all of that up just now, right? And so I think I was very much exposed to that kind of creative way of just being in the world, just taking any situation and weaving it into a story. And I think that, and when I work with my clients, I try to tell them that like anything is a story. There's stories all around you every day. It's not always this huge, giant moment, right? Sometimes it
Right.
is a huge moment, right? But it's not always. Just like we were talking, I was telling you about the granola with the chunks in the top, and I love the chunks, but I like to eat them out of the bag. But to go on top of my yogurt is like the smaller pieces, right? Like I just was talking. I was talking about something in real life that was happening. And that is really like stories are around us everywhere. We just have to tune into those stories and convey them in a way that is relatable to other people. And that is really what it is at its most basic level.
Yes, yes, at its most basic level. But to be able to captivate in a person to remember your story. So it hits, it
Hmm.
resonates, and to be able to also bring it home, right? So
Right, right.
you say that you record on Tuesdays. It's 7 days in a week, Toby. So that leaves 6 other days. So what are you doing? What are you doing on the other days when you're
On the
not?
other days.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I have other things going on in my business. I have some retainer clients that I do some blog writing for. I am writing emails to my list, telling stories. I'm building things. I've spent quite a few weeks building this Core 8 Story Hub. Those are all work related things. You and I have talked about this before.
Yeah.
Time with family is so precious to me. It's why I keep doing what I do and having my own business because I have the flexibility to work from anywhere, to take time off if I want to go to a family function, if I want to travel. It's all for family. And the more time
Yeah.
that I can get with my husband, my kids, my grandson, my new grandbaby on the way in December, which I'm so
Yay.
excited about. And so we're just, we have family over often as we can. We ride motorcycles, my husband and I. We have an RV. We go camping. We're taking a family trip to the beach. And so you see the theme is all family. It's all
Yes.
time is so fleeting. And the older I get, the faster it goes. And I know that sounds cliche, but it really feels true, right?
I get
And I
it.
want to soak up every minute of it, right? Soak up every minute of it. And I love my work. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it.
Absolutely.
Right? I
Absolutely.
love the podcast. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it because life is too short and there are other things I could be doing that I love. And so, yeah, so it's, through that filter, I've built a life around how do I want to feel every day when I wake up? Do I want to feel
Mhm.
joy and peaceful? Now, don't get me wrong, like not every day is all, rainbows and butterflies, as they say, but very much I want to wake up and, feel good in my body, feel strong, feel, I've worked out, I've nourished my body, I've had coffee with my husband in the morning, like these things keep me grounded. And then I'm ready to tackle the day, whatever it is.
I love that. I love that. And I love that family theme. I really, really love that family theme because so many people are doing all kind of things to make human connections, and they are lacking the human connection with the most important humans that are around. And that's our family, that's our husbands, that's our children, our grandchildren,
Hmm.
and just family, right? So we're
Yep.
really big about family and friends, believe it or not, even though we are so far away. We travel, but we still, we
Hmm.
stay connected. We find ways to stay connected. I love that stories is what you do, is your gift in your business, in your podcast. I'm sure you are probably a one that tells stories into the family. I'm sure you tell wonderful stories to your grandson, and you're probably a storyteller. You're
Yeah.
probably the storyteller in the family, and you do an excellent job. And as you said earlier, having the podcast is a great way to just give back to other phenomenal women doing great
Hmm.
things. And I am here for that. And so it's just like, yeah, maybe I can't fill up your course with me and 9 other people, but what I can do is just offer you a platform where you can tell about your course and invite people to come and tell about the podcast and invite people to come. I generally want to be a part of the team that get your podcast to the top. And you say, well, you have a podcast, and that is how my light elevates, is when I shine it into others that are doing the same thing. So shining into you is shining into 100 of other women because you're doing it. And so then other people are doing it as well. We'll all get there. And it doesn't
Yep.
matter who gets there first, second, or third. We'll all get there. We'll all get there wherever our there is, wherever
Exactly.
our top is. And when we realize that we have different tops, we have different, just elevations, then it's easier to shine into other people. It's easier to shine in.
Hmm.
So, with that
Yep.
said, Toby, I would like you, it's two things because I personally know there are two things that you're doing. I would like you to tell us what you are working on professionally that people can sign up for. Let's start there.
The Core 8 Story Hub is a 90-day accelerator where we will actually build your Story Hub. The easiest place to build it is inside your Google Drive because most of us have access for Google Drive. And there are 8 core stories that every business owner should have at their fingertips when they need to pitch, post, write an email. Includes your origin story, your vision story, your values and action story, behind the scenes, client success stories, all of those stories so that you're never fumbling around in those moments when you know, like, oh, I have a good story for this. I can't find it. We will build the hub, we will fill the hub, and you'll have it there for a lifetime.
Awesome. So the other thing
hmm
is with the core 8, how can people sign up for that? Or is it still open with the beta testing?
Yeah, the best way because it's beta, I'm letting people know on LinkedIn about it. I'm letting people know on my email list about it. Right now, you can't sign up via my website because it's in test mode. It's the beta version. And so if
Okay.
you follow me on LinkedIn or if you get on my email list, you'll definitely find out about it and be able to sign up.
Awesome. So we'll put something in a narrative where they can get onto your email list, or can they do that from your website?
They can get on my email list through my website. I can actually give you a direct link for your show
Okay.
notes if you want to sign
Yes,
up for it. Yes,
yes.
but you won't find it if you go to my website because it's only in beta right now.
So what we'll do is we'll put in the show notes a link for the beta testing, and
Yes,
then they can sign up for the email list on your website. So yeah, we can.
they can sign up. Yeah.
Yes, that would be awesome. So Toby, her origin story, phenomenal podcast. How can our listeners find it and subscribe and share?
Yes. Yes. I would love that if your listeners would do that. I am on Apple Podcasts. I am on Spotify and Amazon Music, and you can just search for her origin story, and it should pop up. And I would love to have listeners, subscribers, love to hear what you think of the show.
Awesome. That is wonderful, Toby. So, as we often do on the show, we asked our guests to just drop some love to our listeners, a love drop of inspiration. So, Toby Miles, what would that be?
Oh my gosh. What I want people to know, all of your listeners, women, men, everybody, is that people want to know you. People want more of you, right? And so instead of showing up online and looking over at what this person's doing and what your neighbor's doing and thinking you have to do that thing, don't do the opposite. Your stories are already within you. And when you stay rooted and grounded in your own stories, you're always going to show up authentically, confidently. You're never going to run out of things to say because the stories are already within you. And I want to encourage more people to just take that leap and have that bravery to just show up fully as themselves.
Awesome. That is very, very, very much appreciated. Thank you so much, Toby. Thank you for taking the time to join me. Thank you just for your light, Toby. Thank you for all that you give to the world. Keep telling those stories, girl. We are listening. We are listening. And, thank you for being here, Toby.
Thank you for inviting me, Diane.
Yes. And until next time, we will sign off and we'll say one love.
Never a second will I waste. Never an opportunity to taste the sweetness of this life.
Thank you for tuning in to the Love Drops podcast.
Follow the challenge.
Be sure to follow this podcast and share the love with everyone you know. Until next time, this is Charles and Diane signing off. One love.
Love it conquers all, whether big or small. Love never fails. Oh, love it conquers all. Love never fails.